Hi, everybody. Welcome to A Year to Remember, wrapping up the school year with Spaces EDU. We will be covering some important tasks and also reminders to make sure that you wrap up the school year with excellence on Spaces EDU. My name is Tatiana. I'm the Education Training and Engagement Specialist here at SpacesEDU. You might recognize me from one of your trainings or previous webinars. So I essentially help educators identify features to optimize their SpacesEDU experience and streamline their teaching practices. So today is just to go over some things to consider as you wrap up the school year, what you need to do to tie up those loose ends. I just wanted to share this little comic here that made me laugh. My mom is an educator herself, so I think she would probably agree here with this sentiment and relate to this comic. And I have a feeling that you're all feeling the end of the school year is near as well, and you're just ready to go and get into summer mode. So I thought I would add this in here for a little humor. And also this little mug here made me laugh, but what we're going to talk about is just different activities and engagement strategies you could adopt here for the end of year with your students on SpacesEDU, depending on your energy levels. So as I know at this time of year, you might need to recharge, like you've come to that point where you're approaching summer and you're ready to relax, and I understand. So I do want to also acknowledge and give you a shout out for your incredible resilience and your dedication to your students. I'm sure there were some sleepless nights marking or meticulously crafting your lesson plans at home, but you were consistent in bringing your A game and taking care of your students. So kudos to you for your commitment to shaping young minds on just in general. I want to celebrate that. That being said, this is the agenda that we have for today, just going over some important tasks and reminders, implementation ideas, like I said, to engage your students, your class, even some families as well on the platform at the end of the year. And we'll go over some resources as well. Okay, so when it comes to important tasks, I do want to stress that your district or your school, if they are licensing SpacesEDU Pro, your administrators will be taking care of the bulk of this cleanup for you. So things like archiving your classes from this year and setting up next year's classes, that is usually something that your administrators will take care of for you. If you want, you can always double check with your district or school administrators if you want to confirm. As for any activities that you've created this year, this will be stored in your activity portal. So you will be able to reuse the same types of activities in future classes on SpacesEDU. On the other hand, there are some important reminders that I'd like to go over here, and these are suggestions and recommendations that you could provide to your students as well. Particularly the first point there, which is asking graduating or departing students to update their email in their account settings to a personal email so that they can keep they have access to their accounts after the fact. What I will say here, though, if students are unable to do that change themselves in the back end in their account settings, usually this is something that would affect students who are logging in through single sign-on, SSO. They might have trouble updating their email addresses or changing that themselves. If that's the case, please ask them to email hello@spacesedu.com, or you can email on behalf of said students and provide us with their respective personal emails, and we'll make sure that that change gets updated for you. Next is do not delete students or student work from your class, just so we are able to maintain that integrity. All of that goes into the all work feed That is essentially a history of previous posts for students from class to class that follows them from year to year, and they will have access to the all work feed through their accounts. So make sure that you're not deleting anything. And speaking of the all work feed, you may want to also look at your space visibility settings. So any posts that are currently living in spaces that are hidden from students will not appear in the all work feed. So again, for the integrity, to maintain the integrity of the student history of evidence of learning or work, let's make sure that we're reviewing our spaces visibility here in our classes to ensure that those posts then get transitioned over to the all work feed as well. And finally, for those who are using the reporting space this year, you may want to download the most recent summary statement before you, before you sign off for the summer. Just in case you want to use it for record keeping, you can download it from your reporting spaces and share it with your students, whatever the case may be, because reporting spaces do not get archived. They do not go to the all work feed. So that is something to consider here if you want to have this readily available or shared with students and families. Okay, so now that we've gone through those housekeeping items, let me go through some of these engagement ideas, implementation ideas, based on the energy spectrum that you're finding yourself out here. So some of you might be running on empty, which like I said, hey, that's totally fair, especially at this time of year, totally understandable. Or maybe your tank is half full, so you're just like, you got a little bit of energy left, but you want to conserve as much of it as possible just to get you through the rest of the year. Or you're so energized and you're ready to go out with a bang. If that is you, then I'd like to applaud you for your energy, especially as we near the end of the school year. That's pretty remarkable that you're at this energy spectrum yourselves. But yeah, let's go through these ideas together. Let's start with those who are running on empty. So my mission here, our mission as a collective at SpacesEDU, is to guide you through this last stretch to ensure you achieve maximum impact with minimal effort. And guess what? The key to our magical formula here lies in involving students in the process. So less work on your end. How do we do this? So one of the ideas that we have here is journal reflection, asking your students to reflect on their academic and personal growth. Reflective practice is really important, and some of you already know this and already putting this into practice as well with your students, is to have them really develop that metacognition and reflect on what they've learned this past school year. This is a fantastic exercise for your students, especially those who require differentiated instruction. You could assign an activity, or you could simply post a prompt in the student's individual space and have them respond in the comment section, or they can create a separate post if you want. So they can reflect on what stuck with them this school year. So you could ask them to share their thoughts through a video or audio recording for those who are younger, or they can stick to text-based reflections like in this example here. But really encourage them to reflect on their own learning and share their experiences with you. And if you want them to share their experiences with their peers, you could have this activity or this prompt live in the class space instead of the personal spaces. So they can go over things like, what is one thing that they didn't understand at the start of the school year, but now they understand, so they can explain the process there. They can also go over one concept or topic that they're still struggling to understand at the moment, and then they elaborate on that and what they plan to do to overcome this challenge. Maybe they have plans over the summer, strategies they intend on implementing themselves. And finally, what they would like to learn more about next year. So explain they can explain to you why they are interested in this specific topic and how they hope to learn more about it. Another activity I like to suggest here is self-assessment. So you could instruct students to complete a self-assessment to reflect on their competencies and areas for improvement using specific statements like um, I can statements or evidence-based statements, goal statements, and also how. So these are just prompts or starters that you could use here as guidance for your students. I would say this is a great activity for districts who value or who are following a competency-based framework. But of course, other districts in other regions would benefit from this as well. Again, we are putting metacognition at the forefront here and putting the student in the hot seat, and they're taking the lead when it comes to their own learning and reflection. All right, so if your tank is half full, this means that you've made it this far, you've cruised through the school year like a pro, but of course, even the smoothest journeys could use a little turbo boost to go out on a high note. So we're about to explore some ways to elevate your classroom activities and bid farewell to the year in style. That's the plan here. What I would recommend if you have the capacities to create a portfolio individual space for exit portfolios. So if you have already created a portfolio space at the beginning of the year, you could ask your students to select their top 5 work samples they are mostly proud of, and then they can comment in their comment section of each of these posts to reflect and elaborate why they chose those specific posts or those specific artifacts. And there are questions that they can ask themselves as well. So if you scan this QR code, that will take you to those reflection questions. But this is a great exercise, again, as we try to enhance or promote metacognition here for our students. And it does put the work on them, right? So it's not asking you to do much here in your class. Another fun activity is a virtual yearbook. I'm sure you remember being back in school, and the yearbook was such a big deal at the end of the school year. You wanted all your friends to sign your yearbook, and you're reminiscing of the whole school year, all your memories. Well, you could do the same thing here with SpacesEDU using the class space. I could see students just responding or submitting an activity here. So you would create the activity and you would give them some guidelines, what you're expecting. So they could share memories from the school year. They can share gratitude messages, advice to future students or to their peers, their goals, aspirations, thank you notes, personal anecdotes as well from the school year. And they can get creative, right? They don't have to use text. They can share a vlog as an example. I'm thinking of the older students here. An audio recording, a bunch of photos as well. If we're talking about memories from the school year, remember students can attach up to 10 media files per activity submission. And in the comments section as well, if they wanted to include additional attachments, they could do so too. So this is such a great way to get the whole class engaged and a beautiful way to also just walk down memory lane with your students and remember things that you might have forgotten about as the year went by. And finally, if you are buzzing and ready to go out with a bang, you're like the Energizer Bunny of teachers. So if that's the case, if this is you, I've got some great ideas to help you channel that energy and make the last days of the school year truly memorable for your students on SpacesEDU. So you could get creative here. If you love Canva as much as I do, you can use this Canva template there by scanning the QR code and creating a year-end newsletter for families and for students if you want. So this is a great way to commemorate specific field trips or events, thank families for their involvement throughout the year. You can have a goodbye message or any summer recommendations that you may have for students to continue on their learning and their growth. Moving on from the newsletter, another activity you could consider is goal setting. So students probably had setting activities assigned to them at the beginning of the year. This could be a way for you to have them reflect on their learning experiences and set goals for the following year or for the summer. And we're really focusing here on the power of yet. So we're trying to reframe students' negative self-talk. This is an opportunity for growth and learning. We can ask them to think about how they can turn their negative self-talk into a positive affirmation that will help them achieve their goals. So students could be visual here. They can, as you can see, this is a drawing that the group has done as a collective, but you can also have students vocalize their goals through video, audio recording, digital collage, and then, encourage them to have a visual representation here of their positive affirmations and the power of yet. So we're trying to really develop that growth mindset, and students can learn from this activity about the power of perseverance and resilience. So by reframing negative self-talk, as an opportunity for growth, students can build confidence and achieve their smart goals as well. All right, so what I also would recommend here, aside from any student activities, is to set some time aside for yourselves to reflect. I know once June hits, or in this case, May, whenever your end of school year is. I know for some districts or regions, it's at the end of May and others more towards the end of June. Anywho, when we're at this stage, it can quickly feel like you're just trying to get across that finish line with all of the end of year activities, celebrations, projects, tests, right? And once it's finally over, it's really tempting to just box everything up to the net and have that be next year's problem, right? But the best thing you can do before leaving for summer break, while the challenges and wins are still fresh in your minds, are to spend some time honestly reflecting on what worked and what didn't work over the past school year. So setting aside some time to reflect is a great way to gain insight and prepare for the fall. It might prompt you to adapt and improve a SpacesEDU workflow, a practice. You can rethink of ways to utilize a specific feature or tool within the platform, or you could even inspire yourself to adopt an underutilized tool next year. And as you look back and reflect in an intentional way, you won't just think about the specific things you wish you'd done differently. You'll give your future self the benefit of creating a plan in response. So what will you do next time? That's the whole point of this activity here. So what I love for you to do is to identify the SpacesEDU tools and features you use this school year. So let's take a look at the table at the bottom of this slide here. So there are tools for class and family engagement, digital documentation, and of course, assessment and reporting. So from the tools and features that I've listed there, look for the ones that you've utilized and identify what worked well and what could have been improved. So we're talking about wins and challenges. And if there are tools here that you don't recognize, it's probably because you haven't used them yet. And jot that down and note it down, and maybe this is something you could explore in the summer if you have downtime, if you're interested. Or you could start using this in the fall in the next academic school year. But I'm sure most teachers will agree with this statement that teaching is a continuous journey of self-reflection, learning, and personal development too, right? So incorporating reflection into your routine, even at the end of the school year, can help further your growth as a teacher so you can enjoy more, best those best moments in your classroom. So definitely consider doing that reflective piece yourself when it comes to your SpacesEDU journey. All right, let's see some of the setup in your SpacesEDU account really quickly here. So I'm going to jump right into my class right here. What I would like to show you is the activities here that I've essentially queued up so you could schedule activities ahead of time, right? You can set start dates. If we take a look at the bottom of my activities that have been assigned here, this says not visible to student because I've set a start date for later into the semester. So in June, I have my virtual yearbook and my goal setting, the power of yet activity here. Let me just quickly show you one example with the virtual yearbook. I have the prompts here, the guidelines, how I want them to respond. So I am encouraging them to use visuals here since it's meant to be a yearbook, right? We want it to be visually rich. So this will go live on June 10th. Again, sorry about that. Making this super easy for you because it's already queued up. It's an afterthought. You don't have to worry about this come June. As for the spaces here, spaces tab, I did want to go over that visibility piece. So again, remembering to make specific spaces visible so that those posts can go into the all work feed for students. So to check on the visibility settings, what you'll do is click on the three dots here on a space card. It should be located on the bottom right corner of a space card, then clicking on Edit Space Settings and ensuring that it is active. So students will have that in their all work feed. Super easy, right? And finally, over here, when it comes to messages, you remember that newsletter I had recommended, or if you want to share the reporting space summary statement, the downloaded version of it, the PDF, you could share that in direct messages to families in the family channel here, which targets all families that are linked to your class. You could send that newsletter as an attachment, like I did here, with an accompanying message to all families. And what's neat here, you can see read receipts. So it says read by one person. So if you click on that, actually, it will let us know who has read it and who has yet to open that message. So again, a great way for us to gauge how engaged our families are on the platform. So definitely something to consider here. And finally, as you are completing that self-reflective piece yourself, a great exercise that you could do here within your SpacesEDU class is to take a look at your proficiency report. So let's go back to the feed and take us here to the side panel on the right-hand side where all of our assessment pieces live, right? Or our organizational pieces as well. We can see here the View Proficiency Report button, so you can click on that. And this will be a great way for you to look at your curriculum coverage from the proficiency report. Let me just exit this and make sure that it loads. My apologies, my internet is really slow today. There we go. So the proficiency report here outlines your curriculum tags on the top row, as you can see, right? So you can narrow down the search or the filter here by subject. So you can take a look at your coverage, let's say ELA, anything pertaining to ELA, we can see which curriculum tags we've applied. So we can get a better idea of the coverage or how far we got into the curriculum. So you can take note of what you can improve next year, what worked. You can take a peek at types of posts for each of these curriculum standards, learning objectives, etc. So definitely a great tool for you to leverage and also inspire you for next year. Great tool to utilize for the reflective piece. So that was just a quick walkthrough here of sort of that end of year review, cleanup, if you will, and also some great engagement activities. So if you also want to, you have here a little post that I've created, which is a year in review, talking about how they're almost at the end of the finish line, and prompting students to share their thoughts in the comments section here. I love this comic. I think it's hilarious. Another great one to add to my favorites here for sure. All right, so that is it for the walkthrough, but I do want to go over this resource right here that I will include in the description of this YouTube video. It is the SpacesEDU end of year planning document. So any of the frequently asked questions are answered here. Gives you some ideas or steps to take to prepare for next year. We kind of already went over this in this webinar today. But if you're curious about some of these questions here, like what happens to my students' work at the end of the year, and it does touch on the all work feed that I mentioned. So it does go into the all work feed. Again, any additional questions that you may have also is included here in this document. But of course, if you have any other additional questions, you can feel free to email our support team at hello@spacesedu.com. And you can always initiate a chat with our support team through your accounts at the bottom left corner of the website. Otherwise, there's also our help center that you could visit during offline hours if you want to troubleshoot. It's help@spacesedu.com. And yeah, so other than that, I'd like to thank you for watching this recording and for attending the webinar today. And I hope to see you very soon. Take care.